Call the honourable member for Herbert.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I think this is a great discussion to have, and I think it's not so much the topic of the MPI, but I think the discussion around higher education is a great discussion to have. I go back to a previous MPI we had on this, and the member for Pearce gave this great speech where he outlined why he thought this was a great discussion to have. Under the Menzies system, you had all your Commonwealth scholarships, so it wasn't as if everyone had to pay to go to university. People like John Howard, who went to Canterbury Boys High, a state high school, the first Prime Minister ever to go to a state high school. He won his Commonwealth scholarship because he was one of the best and brightest, and lots of people went through that system. So the question being asked by Gough Whitlam in the early 1970s was, could you get more people from lower SES backgrounds to go to university if we removed all the costs? And I think that was a great question to ask. So they took away all the costs. I know it's a member for Chisholm here, so she didn't pay for her first degree. I remember that story. So by the time 1988 came around, the answer, and Labor brought in HECS, the answer was no, it would not. The cost of free education would not necessarily raise the number of low SES students because the fact that the numbers had not changed substantially. So Labor brought in HECS, and you'll always hear from the Labor Party talk about that we didn't take this to an election, and it's a budget bill. It's not an education bill. Well, I'd just like to point out that every bill is a budget bill because everything passes, including HECS. And I would just like to quote from a speech I gave earlier in relation to higher education. And when HECS went through, Liberal Senator Bill Teague led our response to the package of bills, including HECS, in a major change to higher education, which incidentally was not taken to an election. This is what the then Senator Teague said, and I quote, "We in the opposition are opposed to the graduate tax, or HECS. But we will be supporting this higher education contribution scheme in this legislation for several reasons. First, it is a budget bill, and we respect the ability of an elected government and the House of Representatives to determine a budget and its financial provisions for higher education." End quote. That's what a responsible opposition does. It respects the government's right to set a budget. It gets down to that a degree should cost the same in every context. My university in Townsville is James Cook University. It's a Menzies University. We have a science degree which includes Orpheus Island, it includes a working cattle station, as well as access to the Great Barrier Reef. We have all these sorts of things. Why should that degree be the same cost as someone who lives in a concrete jungle in Melbourne? Surely there should be some differentiation. So they brought in HECS. And the number of fees for a number of people from lower SES backgrounds did not drop. They in fact rose. And towards the end of the Keating government and the first Howard government, we actually had increases of up to 800% in HECS under both governments. So Keating put it through, mate. And did that discourage people from going to university? And did that discourage people with lower SES backgrounds going to university? No, it did not, because the numbers went up and up and up all the way through. The numbers have gone up. The Labor government cut $6.5 billion from education funding in their last two governments. We just saw, and it still went up. We have the minister, the opposition leader, standing there. 10 minutes to outline his plan on either why we're undermining it or what he's going to do. And he quoted, of all things, Monty Python's The Holy Grail, where he said it was the Black Knight. I find it amazing after his John Fane interview where he said that everyone should be someone. Maybe he should have quoted from The Life of Brian, because we're all individuals. Well, I would suggest that he's not the leader of the opposition. He's certainly not a Prime Minister. He's just a very naughty boy. Right, so what is his plan? He doesn't have a plan, and he said 10 minutes there to say absolutely nothing. What we are doing with higher education is expanding it to TAFE, to allow people with diploma skills to get diplomas for the first time, to be able to get through there and get the costs of it put onto a help loan, so that people can, once again, the vast majority of people in this, a very much undervalued part of our education system, can access those things to go through there. We have an education system, Deputy Speaker, around the world which is in global flux. It is in rapid change, and if we don't keep up with that change, we will be left behind. Education is a major export industry for this country. Should not be bandied about, and it should be something there around which our universities can be as competitive as they possibly can in a global environment, taking into account the challenges that we face today, not just here, not just in Melbourne and Sydney or Brisbane or Townsville, but across the world.